Hey guys, Cesar and Pam with cesarandpam.com.
Hello.
Don't sell your soul, your family, or your health to grow your business or your career. And we're excited about helping you guys. I know I made a quick video about it, about subject today. And again, I want to repeat, we don't want to be controversial. We just want to share the truth with you today because there's an increased fear of people coming out of quarantine. We have a business in internet business in the travel industry, and we are planning now a couple of trips, one in September to Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and another one in October, same place. And there's a sense of fear, and people are hesitant, right, honey, about traveling. And what about a church? I mean, we just experienced in churches opening slowly here in the U.S.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear about just getting sick, getting the coronavirus. But I think we need to understand this, what Cesar and I talked about, what we want to just talk about today is what keeps us healthy. What has God already given us in our immune system that we can strengthen and learn to just be wise, but not live in fear because, from the time, a baby is born, I love that, Cesar was just saying this in Spanish, but from the time the baby's born, we don't live in a bubble, the baby comes out of your womb where they're so safe and secure into this world where they have to get used to all the stuff, and they start crawling and touching everything and always putting everything in their mouths, but we're designed that way. That's how their bodies are figuring it out, how to have a strong immune system.
Yes, we have an immune system that is learning continuously. And
yeah, so even when I think that's something that scares people, like, oh, this is something new, this coronavirus is new. And I've heard some doctors say that we've been fighting coronaviruses for a long, long time. Yes, this strain might be different, but our bodies are constantly having to deal with new viruses. God is just intricately designed us to be able to fight against things that are foreign.
So I think it was reasonable when we first were learning about the coronavirus. Nobody knew what it was, right? To quarantine, although it's very strange to quarantine the healthy, not the sick, because they said, oh, you don't have any symptoms and you could be contagious, right? But at first, okay, I understand. But as we have now gone over almost 3 months of this, we have numbers. And I've been listening to a lot of doctors here in the U.S. and also in other countries because our business that is all over Europe and Latin America allows us to see what's going on in other countries, what other cities are doing, what other states are, not just countries. And by looking at the numbers, looks very similar to the flu, right? And I'm just going to share a few numbers because I didn't record this in English for a channel, but is that okay, honey, or is that too much? Otherwise,
you can.
Okay, I'm going to share a little bit of the numbers. So these two doctors who own 7 clinics in California, they tested over 5,000 people, and they found 240 cases, which is 6.5%. So it's a viral, widespread infection, similar to the flu, right? And 280,000 cases in California. These are numbers that are a few weeks old, so bear with me, but they're very similar as everything progresses. 280,000 tested, 33,800 positive, which is 12% of Californians had the virus. Millions of deaths were predicted. However, not true. The state has 39.5 million people, only 4.7 million were positive, so it's widespread, but only 1,227 deaths, which is 0.03% chance of dying from the coronavirus in California, 3 out of 10,000 people. So why all the sheltering? Why are we shutting down the medical systems? Why are we not working? 96% of people in California recover with no significant continuing problems. The more you test, prevalence goes up, but death stays the same, which means the numbers are actually getting smaller. What about New York? New York State, 649,000 tested, 256,000 cases. That's 39%. That's very high. 19,000 deaths out of 19 million people. What are the chances of dying? 0.1%. 92% recovery rate. In the US, 4 million tested, twice as many as other countries. Sure, Germany has 2 million, but has a lower population, of course. But 802,000 cases, 19.6%, and which is 328 million population. That would be 64 million tested positive. If you extrapolate the numbers, that's similar to the flu. Spain, which was hit hard, and we have business in Spain, and I know a lot of people there, 930,000 tested, 204,000 cases, that's 22% tested positive. Out of 47 million people, that's 10 million cases, 21,000 deaths. The chances, if you do the numbers, 0.05% of dying from the virus, 90% recovery without hospitalization. Sweden, which had a semi-open, they didn't fully quarantine. We also know people there from our business. 74,000 tested, 15,000 cases, that's 21%, 10.4 million population, 2 million equivalent, 2 million cases, 1,700 deaths. Chances of dying, 0.01%. What about Norway? Their neighbors in Norway had a full lockdown. 145,000 tested, 7,000 cases, that's 4.9%. In a population of 5.4 million people, that's 1.3 million cases, only 182 deaths. Percentage of you dying, 0.003%, 97% recovery. So the question is, what about the secondary effects of this quarantine? We've seen a rise in family members intoxicated, people not working, people not being productive, depression, sexual abuse, physical abuse, suicide, anxiety, diabetes, etc. People that are having real problems, appendix ruptures, and they don't want to go to the hospital because they don't want to catch the virus. So how is it different from the flu? 2017, 2018, 50 to 60 million people had the flu, 37 to 60,000 deaths every year, according to the CDC. And with similar death rates, 43,000 deaths, and they're not all reported. So only 50% of people received the flu vaccine, which actually shows that the rate for you to get the flu once you get the vaccine is higher, 36% higher. 2017, 45 million cases, 62,000 deaths, 0.13% possibility of dying from the flu, much higher than the COVID, and which starts in October every year and affects the whole population, but people are not afraid of it. Why? Because it's not strange, it's not unusual. So let's go into the immune system, which you talked about, honey. The most important thing we can do is to raise our immune system during this time. Go ahead.
Well, and I was talking to a friend, she's from Romania, from our church, and I think we're not aware sometimes, especially us, like we have a family, we're in quarantine with 4 of our kids, and each other, and we have a good relationship, and so we are touching, and we're having contact, but there's people that aren't having any of that they're alone, and my heart really goes out to the elderly in our facilities and things that are alone, and that they're not allowed to be touched, they're not allowed to see family members, and then I hear the reports about suicide and, like you said, abuse. I mean, we are blessed to be in quarantine with our families and be in a place where we can go outside and we can get fresh air and sunshine, but there are people that are stuck in a room, by themselves, or in a family situation that is not healthy. And I think that there's so many reasons why we shouldn't be quarantining now, because it's not healthy for our society.
Yeah. And now let's look at the virus. I mean, it's going through mutations. Mutations because of the sci-fi movies we watch. We think like, oh no, it's mutating, it's getting more dangerous. Mutation always means in science a loss of information, which means it's actually your bodies are learning about it. Your bodies are learning how to combat it every year, just like the flu. So there's 3 things that I want you to consider. And again, I can't talk like this is gospel, and I want you to think about 3 things. Number 1, the largest industries in the world, oil industry, travel, food, and pharmaceuticals. Food and pharmaceuticals have the highest numbers of lobbyists in Washington trying to pass laws to keep on selling what they sell, whether it's good or bad for your body, right? So one thing you might want to consider is if the companies that are going to be providing the vaccine for the flu, for the coronavirus, how much are they going to be profiting from selling the equivalent of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, supposedly finding a cure for something that perhaps was created for that reason. Number two, governments might take it as an opportunity to raise taxes next year. Say, hey, we give you a stimulus check. We provided the vaccine. Now we're going to raise taxes a little bit, but forever. And number three, it's a great social experiment to see how much we can be controlled by the authorities. I want you to consider those three things and respectfully tell me your view. And I'm open to hearing what you think. But it seems to me that there are these other forces at play because some things don't make sense, such as we couldn't go to work, we couldn't go to church, but you can go to a grocery store and you can be touching all kinds of products and bring them to your house, knowing that this fomites, I don't know how you say that in English, all the stuff you buy could have potentially the virus. I bet if you go into your house, you've been coming from the outside, you've been touching things, it's there. So it's not so much completely isolating yourself from the world. It's having a strong immune system. Yeah. So many of the people that died, they already had comorbidity, which is they had other causes of death. My mom being a pathologist, my dad being a gastroenterologist. I remember one time my mom who would say she'd rather be doing autopsies than doing dishes. She would say they never die. People never die from one thing. I was talking to my dad yesterday. He was the director of a hospital in our city where I grew up, about 500 million people. And he was director for over 20 years, I think. And he was saying, yeah, they die, but they had other problems. People had heart problems, liver problems. Somebody's been smoking for 40 years, and maybe they died with the virus, but not from the virus. It's impossible to determine that somebody exclusively died from it. And our government is saying that it's using very liberal numbers.
It reminds me of a chiropractor would say that there's like a bucket, your body's just storing up toxins or dealing with stuff going on, and all of a sudden it can be one little thing that you do, the last drop that tips the bucket, and all that junk, causes reactions in your body. But it really wasn't that one thing. It's the whole bucket full that you're feeling the effects of now.
Yes. Thomas Edison said, the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. I remember talking to my parents growing up, because I observed my parents interacting and talking to us about their medical lives growing up. And then when I turned 13, my dad wanted me to become a doctor, a surgeon like himself, or some sort of doctor. So he would bring me into the operating room, taught me how to dress and how to wash. I ended up helping him in some operations. And it wasn't for me, the medical field, but after we got married and started learning about health, I started having conversations with my parents, asking them, you know what? In medical school, they don't teach you about health, about prevention. They teach you about disease. And don't get me wrong, if you break a bone, go to a doctor. If your appendix ruptures, go to a doctor. But maybe a doctor does not know how to prevent in the first place.
Well, and one of the illustrations I like that you say is, if you have a headache, we have just learned that, I have a headache, I got to take a Tylenol or an Advil or something. And no, that shouldn't be the first thought. We have a symptom. We're not just trying to get rid of that symptom. We're trying to figure out why. And usually, most of the time it's because you're dehydrated and you need more water. Maybe you need sleep. Maybe you need more oxygen, but we shouldn't just think, I have to have medicine.
Yeah, I remember we were driving back from visiting our daughter Natalia for Mother's Day a couple of weeks ago. And what happened when you were driving?
I don't know.
Little light came on the dashboard.
Oh, yeah. So the light came on in the car, And we didn't go to a mechanic and say, can you like take the wires out so that light doesn't shine because it's really bothering me there on the dashboard. No, it's like, it's there for a purpose. It was like a reminder. Cesar's looking it up in the book because we weren't sure what the little wrench was. It's time to get the oil changed. Time for a tune-up, So it's a good thing that those lights come on. It's a good thing maybe that you got a headache because you need to drink water.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is the Bible says in Hosea 4:6, my people perish because of lack of vision, because of lack of knowledge, says another translation. And I think people can be manipulated and controlled. And we were talking about it with our friends from Romania who grew up during the communist regime there. And it's by lack of information that you can be controlled and fear. So I want you to become educated. We're just inviting you, want to give you some tools so that you know that the best way to combat this virus is by strengthening your immune system, by living a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that what, we believe in the Bible, we believe that God is our healer. And so as Christians, we shouldn't be afraid. We have to be wise. I understand that. But we should be the ones bringing just that spirit, not a spirit of fear, but of love and of a sound mind. Like, we know that we don't need to be afraid. And I know it's controversial about whether or not you're going to go into the stores without a mask, but I decided, because I like to follow rules, and so I highly recommend something that I want to be sensitive to everyone, but I decided, you know what? I'm going to be the smiling face in that store. I'm going to be there looking healthy and not afraid, because people, it's just becoming a thing, to be afraid, to be wary. And I think we need to come against that in the opposite spirit too. Yes, be wise. And if they say you have to wear it. Be respectful. But anytime you can, I think come in the opposite spirit and let people know they don't need to be afraid.
Not in a confrontational way, but educating in love. If they ask you, why are you not wearing a mask? Like, you don't need it. If you're living a healthy lifestyle. We're talking about not the people that are already so immune compromised. I'm talking about...
you can't even say that, honey, really, that they don't need it, because you don't know. There are people that might be going home to a 5-year-old son who's very sick, and they need protection. It's okay. I don't think we need to tell them they don't need it, but I think we can say, I'm healthy, and I believe that I don't need to be afraid of getting the coronavirus.
Yeah, I should have said maybe I don't need it. And I know somebody might say, well, but you might be contagious. Well, 96% of people recover without hospitalization. The 4% of people who don't recover, 90% of that 4% already had another problem, another health problem, another health issue. So let's talk about how we can increase your immune system. I don't want to just create controversy, but give you some tools. Did you know that studies show, and this is by Dr. Colbert, MD, studies show that we can reduce our risk of deadly diseases such as heart disease by 80%, more than 80%, and cancer by more than 60%, simply by leading a healthy life. Our body is an amazing, amazing structure that God created. Have you thought about that? How you're, like from your bone structure, which is so light and yet so strong, your circulatory system, which is the plumbing in your body that where your blood and your white cells travel throughout your whole life, your nervous system, which is founded in your brain and your spine and sends signals to your whole body, your muscular system, which is that incredible system that obeys perfectly, that nervous system, along with the bone structure system. And the incredible thing is that your mind controls your brain. We can't study scientifically the mind because the mind is not tangible. You can't observe it with your 5 senses. But we can study the brain. In robotics, which I've been supplying components to robotic companies for 20 years, they've been studying for decades how to replicate in a most rudimentary way the something that comes so natural, like the movement of the hand, which is so complex? What about your digestive system, which works throughout your whole life, not just ingesting and digesting and appropriating food and assimilating food, but cleansing your system? In your organs, your heart beats for 80 years plus without stopping ever. No engineer has been able to design something like that. Your skin's an organ that grows with you. You lose it and you replace it. Your kidneys, your liver, your colon. If I mispronounce something, please help me. So think about your body as this incredible machine that God created, which requires a special fuel. The manufacturer of a car tells you what kind of fuel you need to put in there. You can't just put in soda because you like soda, Dr. Pepper, I'm going to put it in the engine. You will ruin it, right? To have a certain kind of output of energy, and you also need to maintain it and cleanse it. So with that in mind, I'd like you to think about what you said. When you have a headache, if you're overweight, if you have heart problems, if you have arthritis, if your child has ADD, think of it, not just give me something to take away the symptom, but let's detect. It's an alarm system that is telling me there's an underlying problem. And I would like to talk about the remaining time that we have left here, about the 3 cycles of the body that we need to pay attention to your own body and respect. Number 1 is elimination of waste and food debris. Number 2 is appropriation, eating and digestion. And number 3 is assimilation, absorption, and usage of what you ate. Those are the 3 cycles, 24 hours, about 8 hours each. So pay attention to the 3 cycles. Number 1, body waste and food debris, elimination. About 4 a.m., from 4 a.m. to 12 p.m., why do you wake up with a little headache? Because you're a little dehydrated. Why do you have crusty eyes, fur tongue, bad breath, oily skin? That lie of the romantic movies when they wake up and they kiss each other, that's a lie. That director who said, put that there has no clue of reality. It doesn't exist. What about your urine? It's so yellow and so stinky in the morning. Your mucus, you want to blow your nose because your body's cleansing itself. And that takes energy. So what should you do in the morning? Maybe up until 11 or until noon.
Well, you want to start out with water. Just like if we're going to clean our houses, we use water. Wash our clothes, we use water. And we want to cleanse our system, we need water. And so a great habit to get into is when you first wake up in the morning, drink a glass of water. And then I recommend drinking another glass with apple cider vinegar. This is the Bragg's organic apple cider vinegar. That's the one I like. I just use a capful.
Show me how.
You want some? Okay. So, I mean, you can definitely have more. And if you're actually if you actually have a cold or something that you're fighting, it's good to have a lot more, but start with a capful, every morning, and it's going to help with your digestive system. It's going to help with that good bacteria in your gut. Gives you energy. I don't know. It's pretty crazy everything that it's supposed to be able to do. But my experience is it just helps. It helps your in that elimination cycle. You're gonna drink water and you're probably gonna have to go to the bathroom, and that's a good thing.
If you are not going number 2 at least 2 to 3 times a day, there's something wrong because you're eating about that many times. So you need to be eliminating. So don't eat anything that interferes with the cleansing process. So what should somebody eat? Let's say we drink this. What do we do, honey? Drink water in the morning. What else?
Yeah, I mean, just drink water and wait a little while. Or you could have fruit,
That's what we do, right?
Amount of fruit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't usually eat fruit anymore in the morning, but I know you do.
Yeah, and you have to watch out with fruit because it can have sugar, so don't eat too much fruit.
I do sometimes, but not every day. But yeah, eating a whole orange would be way better than drinking a glass of orange juice. I don't recommend drinking juice because it's just too much sugar.
Yes.
But when you eat a whole orange, you have a lot of nutrients that are in that white part and the fiber. I think it's called biotin, I don't know, good besides the vitamin C and the nutrients. but it's, I mean, that is something easy for your body to digest. And so something that we read when we were first married was, yeah, first thing in the morning, just water and fruit, because your body's still trying to cleanse itself. And so you want to make it easy, having to go to the bathroom and everything. So yeah, a time to cleanse, and then think about fueling your body. And we usually, well, I like to exercise in the morning.
So wait, so that's elimination process, right?
Mhm.
Before you introduce food, remember, cleansing is the main goal. Blood tests show high toxin numbers during this phase because of waste material through elimination channels: bowels, bladder, lungs, and skin. So don't eat, whenever you eat some solid food, then you're gonna stop that cleansing cycle, and you're gonna go into the second phase of the cycle, appropriation, which is eating and digestion, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's when you burn the most calories because you're most active. And the rule is you should eat when you're truly hungry. So go ahead. So what do we eat, for example?
11, 11:30,
noon.
But that's not all the time. He's talking about our quarantine schedule, which has been like,
oh, really?
Yeah. And I just don't think, if you have children, you're not going to wait till noon. I mean, a lot of the things that we read, I don't know what else to read.
Well, we homeschool.
If you need to lose weight, I highly recommend, waiting till noon and really extending that elimination period. But because we homeschool and we don't have to eat early, we usually do a bigger brunch, and the main thing is protein. So eggs is usually a primary. And I'm always adding spinach, yellow peppers, green peppers, red peppers, onions, into the eggs. So that's the main thing, is the protein and the vegetable. And then, limited carbs. And so, I mean, I enjoy baking. And so what I've tried to do is change, instead of, I do more paleo recipes. So I'm using almond flour, I'm using oat flour. A lot of times I'm trying to limit gluten. So, you can have a little bit of good carbs, healthy carbs, but it's mainly protein. And then you want to, and your vegetables. I mean, I really recommend getting some green in there, getting some spinach in your eggs. And then, going into lunch, starting with a salad. And it's not hard. Now everybody sells spring mix, spinach, everything in those big tubs is already clean. A big salad with olive oil, more apple cider vinegar, a little bit of sea salt, and other vegetables, and then a healthy protein.
And phase number 3, to finish our Zoom today, assimilation. That's the absorption and use from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. That's when you utilize the food you consume during the day. Your body knows that you're relaxed, you're asleep, it's when you're least active. So it's trying to keep what was useful and get rid of what's not. And they're trying to heal and rebuild your organism, getting ready to take out the trash in the morning. Best sleep is on an empty stomach. I need to work on that because I like to snack after 8, but ideal if after 8 p.m. you not eat so that your body's doing its job. So recognize those 3 phases and then help your body go through that. Many diseases like cancer, for example, is the inability of your body to fight that disease. I'm not saying there isn't a genetic predisposition, which there is, because I know very healthy people who have had to battle with cancer. But for many, many people, it's increased so much because of diet. Number 1, death of cause in the U.S. Cause of death. It's cancer, and most developed country in the world. How can that be? So diet is that big part of it.
I think, though, today we just really wanted to focus on maybe one thing, and that would be drinking more water. And so recommend drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water. So it's not just that water in the morning, but throughout the day, getting enough water.
Yes. So on the next slide, we talked about the water. We're going to talk about sleep, why sleeping is so important, and how to recognize live food from dead food, how to get rid of dead food and start introducing more and more live food into your diet. And hopefully it'll help you to stay healthy and to have a strong immune system so you can get out into the world and get back to work and do what God called you to do.
Yeah.
Visit us on cesarandpam.com, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Cesar and Pam. Don't sell your soul, your family, or your health to grow your business or your career. You can do both by becoming a good steward of the resources that God has given you.
Yeah. Drink some water. Go outside, get some sunshine today.
Yes. See you in the next one.